Images. Hey, Boomer.
Hey, Greg. Hey, listen, I hear your other partners haven't shown up today with a little snow, and all of a sudden these guys turned into snowflakes or what?
I don't know what the deal is. Probably some angst over TikTok. I know that really bothered you yesterday when you lost.
Oh, yeah, that bothered me. But I just wanted to start out by saying, hey, happy Martin Luther King Day and happy Inauguration Day, man. Things are happening, baby. Let's go.
They are happening, and we know which 4 teams will try to win their way to the Super Bowl. Last night's game I thought was the game of the weekend, obviously, and you feel for Andrews, do you not, Boomer?
I do. I feel also for Lamar. You know, Lamar had 2 big turnovers in the first half. Everybody tends to forget them because he plays a pretty good second half and brings his team all the way down. They fail on 2 two-point conversions, and that last throw to Mark Andrews, he short-armed it. He didn't really throw it. Like, he tried to throw it like it was a dart, and it was a tough catch for Andrews. Normally sure-handed, a guy that always makes that catch. And it's unfortunate that they had the fumble, earlier in that quarter, but it was a great game. It was a really hard-fought game, and to me, 3 out of the 4 games came down to one particular statistic, and that is turnovers. And the Lions had turnovers, the Rams had turnovers, and the Ravens had turnovers, and that's how they lost. The only team that didn't have any turnovers and lost were the Texans, but then again, you could say the officials turned that game over right into the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs.
If you had to guess, who's the MVP?
Oh, it's got to be Lamar. I mean, it doesn't matter. Yesterday's game doesn't matter. It's already been voted on. The All-Pro quarterback is Lamar. Lamar had a season for the ages. That doesn't take anything away from Josh Allen. He's a beast. He played like it yesterday, played smart football, didn't turn the ball over. And, that's really what it comes down to in these games. That's how close these teams are. And I think he'll get the MVP. There's no question Lamar will. His year was ridiculous. Over 40 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions, less than 5 interceptions, I think. And 900 yards on the ground and over 4,000 yards in the air. That's an unprecedented season by any quarterback and any standard that you put out there.
I can't remember a post game where more players and even coaches were suggesting some sort of far-reaching NFL referee conspiracy than the one this weekend. We talked actually last week, I think it was last week or maybe the week before, about Patrick Mahomes and about quarterbacks and whether the slide needs to be respected. I mean, where do you stand on that, having had a day or two to think about it, Boomer?
Watching it in real time, I didn't think either one of the penalties that were called against the Texans were penalties, and the second one was ridiculous. And there is a certain, respect that certain quarterbacks get just because of who they are. And remember, officials are human beings too. They know what game, they know what players they're playing with. They also understand the way the league wants these players to be treated. I just think it was ridiculous, especially when you compare it to some of the other hits that quarterbacks around the league took this weekend, especially the one that Jared Goff took on the interception towards the end of the second quarter. He gets hit under the chin. His head, the back of his head hits the ground, and this is how you're concussed. And I do believe that Jared Goff played with a concussion the entire second half. If it were a regular season game, he would have been pulled out. Somehow, some way, he wrangled his way back on the field. They knew that they needed him, but all the turnovers that he had, to me, were a result of a concussion that he was playing with. Now, again, this is speculation on my part. I give that speculation because I do have the credibility. Had that happened to me many times in many games when the concussion really wasn't taken all that seriously. And it just goes to show you how important the game was, obviously, for Detroit and the emotion that Dan Campbell showed after the game. But he didn't receive the same respect that Patrick Mahomes received. And by the way, Tom Brady, for all those years of brilliance and greatness, there were times in his games where things like that would happen as well, both when he was in Tampa and in New England.
Yeah, but he didn't embarrass himself by embellishing it. I mean, it's, the F is supposed to stand for football, not flopping.
I know. He flopped on the sideline. I know. And it's not a good look. I understand that. And, he doesn't need to do that. And, I understand why he's doing it. But, even like if LeBron James flops in a game or Patrick Mahomes flops in a game or, I don't know, Connor McDavid would flop in a game, obviously it's unbecoming of who they are as players. And then, of course, all the fans who hate that team and hate that player are going to amplify all of that stuff on social media. That's what I was saying. I was getting involved a little bit in the social media stuff because what I'm sick of as a former player and a fan of the league, and I love the game and I love the players that play the game and I appreciate the brilliance and the toughness that they have to have when they're playing, but I hate the inconsistencies, how one quarterback is treated differently than the other. Even Lamar Jackson, I think it was, got tackled out of bounds last night and was not, and there was no flag to that. And I think that if that's Patrick Mahomes, there's probably going to be a call there. And that's the thought process that the NFL hates that we have as fans, and the conspiracy theories that are running wild on social media. I will never say the game is fixed because I played the game. I had bad calls go against us. I had bad calls go for us. And I know how much we as human beings and player and athletes put into these games. It's too physical. It's too nasty for these games to be fixed. So I don't want to go down that conspiracy rabbit hole, but I will say that there are certain players that do receive a little bit more respect than others.
We talk about the Commanders a lot around here because they had the same record that our New England Patriots had last season. That turnaround, Boomer, I know it's new ownership. You got the right guy at quarterback, but is that pretty amazing where they are in a year?
Yeah, it's nothing short of a miracle, actually. So they hired an ex-coach. I don't think anybody was overly excited that Dan Quinn got the job, because of what happened to him in Atlanta and how that kind of fizzled towards the end of his career there. But, he was the steadying ship. And that's why if I were one of these teams looking for coaches, I'm not inclined to hire a first-time head coach. It's just simply because it's too big of a job. It's a beast job. And I know you got to start somewhere. And I would think certain teams like maybe New Orleans would go with an assistant coach. I don't know if the Bears are going to go with one. The Jets certainly shouldn't go with one. And I know that Aaron Glenn seems to be top of the list, but his defense looked disorganized and disheveled in this game against Jaden Daniels. But it's
sounds like Tom Brady and the Raiders may go with one too.
Yeah, they still have to hire a GM as well. Now, if it's Ben Johnson, it's a different story. I think a lot of people feel like Ben Johnson is the guy offensively. I would also tell you that Bobby Slowick for the Houston Texans called a great game against Houston. They had over 430 total yards, I think, against the Kansas City Chiefs. So he's another one to keep an eye on. There's certain teams and certain organizations that need to have somebody with head coaching experience. That's why, to me, like Brian Flores would be the safest pick for the Jets, I think. John Gruden would have been a great pick for the Jets, but nobody's interviewing him, given all those email exchanges and everything else. But if they go with Aaron Glenn, good luck to Aaron. He's a former teammate of mine, but I just think that this job is just such a landmine job, and it's not one that a newly minted head coach should get.
Finally, who do you like tonight? And I'm not talking about the Village People or Lee Greenwood playing at the inaugural balls.
Yeah. Well, that was last night, by the way, and I did enjoy that as well. And I can't wait to watch today. I cannot wait. America is going to be on a new path, man. I don't care what anybody says. And it's about time, man. I'm all in. But I will say this. I like Ohio State tonight. And the reason I like Ohio State, they're loaded everywhere. And, Notre Dame likes to play a lot of man coverage defensively. And if that is the case, and if Ohio State's passing game is on, they got two unbelievable wide receivers who both will be first-round draft picks when it's their turn. So I think the first kid, Ekuba, I think his name is, he'll come out this year. And then, of course, the other kid, the freshman, will come out next year or maybe the year after that, I guess. But if you can't cover those kids, and they really didn't do that much in their last game, this game, I think they have a huge game. So I do like Ohio State tonight.
Having a week to digest Mike Vrabel,
I love it. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah. The one thing I wonder, I was thinking about this, and I don't know if you guys talked about it up there. Maybe when you have him on again, you can ask him, because I know he hasn't named his offensive or defensive coordinators, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm assuming that it's going to be Josh McDaniels. And then I started to think, the one thing about all the Belichick guys that went on to move onto head coaching places and GM places, every time they went into a building, what they did is they fired everybody that was there because they didn't trust anybody. Yeah. I'm wondering, does he hire Josh, or is there a trust factor that may get in the way of hiring Josh because he's tied to the old regime? You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, he lit the world on fire by talking on this show about, the general, when a quarterback throws over 50 times, you only win 22% of those games. Everybody lost their mind thinking he's only going to run the football. But I like the strategy. I like somebody who's thinking about that all the time. And
I know one thing. You look at these playoffs, you better run the ball.
Yeah.
You better have a big offensive line. You better have a big running back, and you better be able to run the football. Even whether it's the quarterback in the case of, the Bills with James Cook and Josh Allen, you have to run the football, especially late in the season, in the playoffs when the weather is just awful. You have to be able to run the ball. So that's what he's really alluding to.
Yeah. All right, Boomer. Well, it's been great once again having you on the show. And honestly, I don't think we need the other guys who just do it like this, you and I, every week next year.
Oh, this is, hey, I'm fine with this, man. Well, I like Courtney.
Yeah.
So Wiggs, I don't know about. Never know with him anyway.
All right, Boomer. We'll talk to you. Thank you.
Okay. See you, Greg.